Another opportunity to sharpen. What do we need to see from the Miami Hurricanes against the Ball State Cardinals?
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday. We made it. I'm losing my voice. I still haven't gotten my voice back from the Florida game. I was yelling so much. I'm Alex Dono, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC and writer for Canes County on Rivals. Thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. On this episode, we're going to predict the final score of Miami versus Ball State. We're going to talk about the big recruiting opportunities that the Hurricanes have, because there's going to be some big-name visitors in the building, and we're going to talk about the objectives here. And joining me on this episode, you know him, you love him. He is the postcast king. You're going to see our guy Jim Greasehopper. You're going to see him and you're going to hear him immediately after the Ball State game on the Miami Postcast channel. The audio version is going to be available on Locked On Canes. So, Grease, first and foremost, 2-0 Miami. This is a game that obviously they absolutely should win. They're 36.5-point favorites against Ball State. What are your primary objectives? What do you want to see from the Hurricanes this Saturday?
All right, well, the first thing I want to see is you, Alex, because I know we're a day away from game day, Miami. What's happening out there, you? And I'll say this, man, I'm excited because for the first time in a long time, we're in the top 10. For the first time in a long time, we have a Heisman Trophy candidate, maybe the Heisman Trophy candidate right now, although it's very early and there are a ton of them. And are you ready for this, Alex Dono?
I'm ready.
For the first time since Ken Dorsey left, and all those years in between, quite frankly, we can now confidently say we are back to being quarterback you.
Yes.
So I'm excited. And also one more thing, Alex Dono, you're not the only alum here. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that handsome guy, class of 96. And thank you very much for all the people out there who are watching every time. So I'm excited for Ball State, Alex. We're in the top 10, first time in almost 5 years. And it's because of Cam Ward coming in. It's because of a lot of other reasons, but having that quarterback, having that steadying influence, he's cool, he's calm, he's solid as a rock. There's not a throw he can't make. That kind of confidence gives everybody the opportunity to elevate his game to a higher level. And you know, in everyday life, if you're watching right now, you everydayers know this, right? You go to work, and if you're watching for the first time, welcome. You go to work, whatever you're doing in your life every single day, when you're around that cool, quiet, confident person who just gets things done and always comes through, everyone gravitates to that person. That's Cam Ward. That's why Miami's so good right now.
Yeah, and if you guys saw, Cam Ward was interviewed on SportsCenter this morning on Friday morning, and every time the interviewer gave him these questions that were basically trying to get him to drink his own Kool-Aid, hey, you're a Heisman candidate, you're doing so well, and hey, are you guys thinking national championship? I love the way Ward handled the interview because he always put everything on his teammates. Didn't want to talk about himself, put it on his offensive line, the pass protection, talked about taking it one game and one day at a time, because again, they tried to lob him a question about national title contenders, but what Ward is not interested in talking about that right now. So I love the way he handled it, and Ward has been sensational so far, Grease. 689 yards through the air in 2 games, 6 touchdown passes, 1 interception. I'll tell you something that I want to see though in this Ball State game. I want to see more consistent chunk plays in the run game, because if I'm going to be nitpicky here, 2 games in, that's something that I think there's a lot of meat on the bone with the running game, especially when you think about the talented tailbacks at the top of the bill with Damian Martinez and Mark Fletcher, who have they both made great plays so far this season, not taking away anything from them. But you'll notice so far, Pro Football Focus grades Miami's offensive line, they've all graded out a lot higher in pass protection than they have in run blocking. Only a 2-game sample size so far, but early on, Miami is 50th in rushing offense in the country. That needs to be better. We expect it's going to be better when more games unfold. But long and the short of it, Grease, is I want to see that start against Ball State. I want to see Miami establish more of a ground dominance and also establish just more chunk plays. I want to see more of those 30, 40-yard runs get broken off.
I would love to see it. I'd love to see a game like Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills just played against the Miami Dolphins on Thursday Night Football, where you're, and Cam Ward being like 20 of 25, something like that, couple hundred yards, couple touchdowns. But Alex, here's what I like to go by, okay? And you played at Florida in game one, right? And Cam Ward played so well in that game, and the opportunities were there in the passing game. And against FAMU, of course, same thing. But what they did, I think, last week in the second half against FAMU, Mario Cristobal is an offensive lineman and a great offensive lineman. And to a man, everyone who's ever lined up on the offensive line, except some of those prima donna tackles through the years. And I'm glad I'm not saying it to their face, as I think, because they're all over 300 pounds. But what I mean is they love to line up and play smash mouth. Every lineman will tell you they prefer, I think of KC Jones with the face paint, ripping off people's face masks in practice. I think of those guys lining up, Cristobal blasting dudes off the line of scrimmage back in the day. So in the second half last week, I felt like they made a commitment to come out and run the ball. And just think about this, Canes fans. That game against FAMU, you were going to win it big no matter what. I think in the second half, they got the running game going, Alex. But look at the yards per carry. All right, look at the yards per carry for Damian Martinez, 6, if you're wondering. And Fletcher Jr., who's a beast, 5.4. How about that? And you're so spoiled at Miami. We should be running back you, not quarterback you. At one time, we had Gore McGahee and Clinton Portis in the same backfield at the same time. Edgerrin James right before that. If you think about that, that's absurd. And of course, Frank Gore just went into the 49ers Hall of Fame, one of the best to ever do it. Yeah. So with those two guys, 6 yards a carry, 5.4. I love Lyle as a change of pace. I think going on that run toward the end of the season, in the playoffs, toward the national championship, he could be a very nice change of pace kind of guy for those big bruising backs. And I think that's what I haven't seen yet. I haven't seen a game breaker in the backfield this year, and that's what I want to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, the other thing, and Miami did such a good job of this against Florida, the discipline factor, only 2 penalties committed in that game. They talked about it so much after the FAMU game. Like, you feel like the lesson was learned there, just being a little less sloppy this time around, because Miami committed 6 penalties in the first half against Florida A&M. They cleaned that up a bit in the second half. They only committed 2 more penalties in the game. But, this is something, Grease. I mean, people can go back and watch and listen to the episode we did together before FAMU last week. And one of our main objectives was clean game, clean execution, keep the penalties to a minimum. They didn't exactly do that last week. So I'm going to rerun that one for this week. Try to commit 2 or less penalties this week against Ball State. It's tough. Hopefully a lot of, backup players get rotated in like last week, but I want the execution to be clean and the flags at a minimum.
Yeah, especially things, and I think there were 2 in Florida, maybe. The unsportsmanlikes, those things will kill you every single time. But those types of penalties, number one, you have to have none of those. No 15-yarders, no personal fouls, nothing, targeting, anything like that. Those are killers. Those one of those can lose you a game. Then it's the discipline penalties, Alex. I don't mind seeing a hold once in a while because it's so subjective, right? And if I'm an offensive lineman and we're playing a team that's wearing a white jersey, I'm wearing white gloves. If they're whatever color jersey they're wearing, that's the color gloves I'm wearing, because you could technically call a hold on almost every play. But what I would not put up with are the false starts, are the offsides, anything discipline related, 12 men on the field, anything like that is inexcusable. Time management, which is on the coaches, not the players, the subs. I think Mario's getting better. He gets a bad rap, and I think that's an interesting topic as well. But when you build your program on discipline, when you build your program on accountability, those are things they didn't have so much of under certain coaches whose names I won't say out of respect. But you know what and who, crossing your mind, you understand who comes to your mind right now. The discipline level within the walls of this program is finally where it needs to be an elite program again. And it has to start there. Dolphin fans, I hate to bring it up again, but you saw it again in the Bills game. If you don't play well up front, I don't care who you have in your backfield, out wide at the receiver positions, or taking the snaps. It does not matter. It starts with the guys up front on both sides of the ball, and the discipline of that offensive line, Alex, so far. I know nobody talks about those guys because it's Cam Ward, it's the receivers, and it's Tyler Barron and, the defense. But the offensive line, to me, has been the biggest key to this start. so far.
Well, when we come back, I want to take a look at the opponent, and I also want to take a look at the opportunity that Miami has because last week was a pretty big one when it came to recruits in the building. This week is even bigger, including players who are committed to other programs Miami would like to flip. You guys want to keep it locked right here. We got the Postcast King, Grease, on with us on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. We're not done yet. And I already know you're keeping it locked to eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. That's the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. We're also brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. Yeah, I know Billy Napier created that profile, hashtag open to work. We'll see if any others join him coming up. But folks, when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, including those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Join them. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you so much for making this. I guess if Grease does the postcast, we'll call this a precast here before the Ball State game. Alex Dono and Jim Greasehopper with you here on Locked On Canes. So Grease, Ball State Cardinals, they've only actually played.
Hold on 1 second, Alex. I have to do this for everyone watching because they heard the spot. What are you? Are you the fourth tenor? That voice.
Oh, thank you.
You can sing, man. I can't say. That's pretty incredible. That you guys with me in the chat? You hear that voice on that spot? Man, that was awesome.
I sang through high school, and then I didn't keep singing in college because I was too focused on football and beer. So I gave up the singing.
Well, you made good choices.
Clearly, I made good choices. Oh, my goodness. So Ball State Cardinals coming into this one, 36.5-point underdogs. This is obviously the type of game where as long as Miami respects the opponent and really respects the game of football and respects their own improvement, like you would have no business losing this game outright. Ball State, in fact, they were in kind of a dogfight with Missouri State in their one and only game. It was tied 14-14 going into the fourth quarter. That's when Ball State pulled away. Their quarterback, Caden Samanza, has 262 yards in his one game this year, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception thrown. And so this is, an opportunity where Miami should be able to control lesser opposition. And Grease, it's also an opportunity for Miami on the recruiting trail because they've got multiple blue chip players who are, in play for Miami, including a guy who's committed to another program. Michael Carroll, one of the top offensive linemen in the class of 2025. He's an Alabama Crimson Tide commit, 6'6", 315-pounder. He's now at IMG Academy. So Miami's gotten a closer look at him now being in the state of Florida, and he's had a really strong start to his senior season. So the Hurricanes recently offered Carroll. So the Alabama commit is going to be down in Miami, giving the Hurricanes a serious look. Which is nice. The other big headliner who's going to be in town, well, there are actually a few of them, but another big headliner who's going to be in town is the top offensive lineman in the class, Elijah Griffin, 8th overall rated player in the class of 2025. He is not technically committed anywhere. Georgia has been considered to be the favorite. He's in the state of Georgia. Miami and USC are also in his top 3. You also have top 2026 athlete slash running back, Derek Cooper from Chaminade Madonna, who's going to be in the building. That's another big-time visitor. Another player from IMG Academy. This one is a class of 2026, top offensive lineman, 6'7", 295-pound Kenyi Pepe is going to be in the building. Derry Norris, who's committed to Georgia Tech. Miami was recruiting him before his verbal.
Yep.
Yeah. That's another one Miami's looking at. So Greece, Miami needs to put on a show, and the fans need to show up and be loud to make these guys realize Miami is a fun place to play.
Yep, and they need to buy into the atmosphere. They need to buy into the mission, to the team. It isn't just the coaches coming into their living rooms anymore. How much NIL money can I get? How do you guys distribute the NIL money here? Where am I going to play? When am I going to play? And as coaches, you have to remember one thing now, Alex, and Mario's been great at this. You're recruiting many players for 1 year. 2 years, and I'm not just talking about the guys who, like Cam Ward, I'm talking about the guys who might leave after a year, might leave after a second year. They might have a great year at Miami and love the program, and there's nothing wrong at all, and they still might leave because they want to go play somewhere else with someone else, another player, another quarterback, whatever. We could go down that road all day long, but the most important thing to me right now for the University of Miami, and this falls on you. I say this every week, and I'm going to say it again. Show up, be loud, make that atmosphere. We don't have an on-campus stadium, right? We don't have that quote-unquote small town where the whole entire thing, where you can go buy 100 beers in Tallahassee. The Rainmaker Richard Rubel did that one time. We went up there and he bought 100 beers and put them on the bar. You can't do that in Miami, right? It's not that small town feel. You know, they were 50 cents a piece. And so when you go to a small school or a small town for a big school, you're going to have an atmosphere that no one can replicate. You can't beat Alabama in that regard. You can't beat the SEC money and the sizzle. But what you can do is say, hey, they're all beating each other. We got a clear path to the playoff every year. We have huge NIL money. We live in Miami. All that aside, Alex, if the atmosphere and the ambiance in that stadium are not right, that hurts recruiting in a big way. And that falls on you, the fans, to get out there, fill that place. And as you said before the show, Alex, they came and they showed up and showed out for the FAMU game. Great job by the fans there. Let's keep it coming.
Yeah, especially since, and I love what you brought up there. Like, you know, obviously I can always nitpick and say, man, I wish the building had been completely full against FAMU. It wasn't, right? We all saw that on TV. It was. It needs to be. It was still, it was a good crowd. It was a good energy, good environment. I want to see that get better throughout the year, especially as Miami keeps winning. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I'm a little worried about the Ball State game because it's not the home opener like it was last week. It's a 3:30 game, so it's not an evening game like it was last week. So I hope I am pleasantly surprised by the amount of fans who show up at Hard Rock Stadium and show out for that one. Because again, like, you know, I think the most important thing in recruiting is these players seeing that Miami has a plan. You know, seeing that, I'll give an example. TJ Alford, the linebacker who's committed to Ohio State, but he still kept his recruiting process open. He's actually visiting Florida State this weekend. Hopefully Memphis shows up, because if they hand Florida State an L, that's only going to help Miami. Alford was at Miami last week. And so this is a linebacker recruit who's watching the game, and he sees Miami gets 3 interceptions by linebackers in that game against FAMU last week. So what a way to put that position on display when you had Wesley Basaint, Bobby Pruitt, and Adarius Hayes, the latter two, who are both true freshmen, going out there making interceptions. That was a great way to make an impression on TJ Alford. So, you know, seeing young players making plays and getting an idea of how Miami is going to use you and that Miami can win, that's probably the most important thing. But Greece, the environment is also important, because when you're visiting Miami and then you're visiting college towns like, you know, like Norman, Oklahoma, like Columbus, Ohio, you want to see how Miami stacks up to that.
Yeah, and you want to flip a kid like Carroll from Alabama, right? And then don't forget about the USF game. That's a huge game, national TV game, right? And so you're on the stage and you're playing against great players, fast players who hung with Alabama for a lot of that game. So if you're a recruit and you're saying, hey, USF hung with Alabama, Miami's playing them too, and it's a road game. But I really believe there's something here that we saw in the Butch Davis era, that we saw in the Howard Schnellenberger era, that we didn't see from Jimmy and we didn't see from Dennis because they didn't have the opportunity. But Butch Davis, the resuscitation of a giant, the rebirth of a dynasty, was Butch Davis. He handed the keys to Larry Coker. Howard Schnellenberger, the state of Miami. Coaches got away from that. Lamar Jackson said that recently. Miami kid. Coaches started getting people from all over the country. They forgot about Miami, what Howard used to say, the state of Miami. And so I actually have a great Cam Ward, Lamar Jackson story that we can tell maybe another time, but or maybe during the show here. But real quick, I just want to say, Alex, for recruiting, kids want to be a part of something like that, to be a part of that resuscitation, of that revival. Guys like Edgerrin James, Ed Reed, you hear those guys talk about having been a part of that. Santana Moss, Reggie Wayne. That's one of the highlights of their football career, was coming to Miami and building it back up to where it should always be. And don't underestimate that, especially for the local kids who grew up here and their families going, yo, you should have seen the Canes when I was a kid. And their grandpa's going, yo, you should have seen them when I was a kid. Those kids want to be a part. The right kids want to be a part of that.
Well, I want to hear the Cam Ward, Lamar Jackson story when we come back, and we'll make our predictions for the Ball State game. You want to keep it locked right here. Alex Dono, Jim Greasehopper, a.k.a. Grease, with you on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. We're not done yet. I'm certainly not done with Factor meals. Guys, Factor, the prep is at a minimum, which is great. The food is delicious and nutritious. They're helping me meet my wellness goals. Let them help you as well. Fuel up with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Guys, you've got great menu full of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. With 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll always have new flavors to explore. Crush your wellness goals with dietitian approved meals and ingredients that you can trust. Treat yourself to restaurant quality meals that feature premier ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, blackened salmon. Enjoy effortless support to your lifestyle. Choose from 6 menu preferences that can help you manage things like calories or maximize your protein intake, avoid meat, or simply eat well balanced. Head to factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50 and use code LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. So, Grease, when you mention the Lamar Jackson Cam Ward story, I want you to tell it because I think I heard it, but I never told the story on the podcast, which is like, I mean, I feel like I try to cover Miami every single day. Sometimes I miss a few things. So I would love people to hear this because I think this paints a really good picture of Cam Ward.
Michael Irvin told it, if that rings a bell with you.
That's the one.
And you every day, as you might have seen this, you're following the program to this level. And great job every day, Alex, covering the team. You get to everything.
Almost everything.
But this is the playmaker right here telling a story that he had heard about Cam Ward. So if it comes from Michael, my all-time favorite player, Hurricane/Cowboy, St. Thomas Aquinas. But Michael Irvin said Cam Ward called one of his top receivers during the offseason to go work out. Just called him up on the phone and said, hey, we're going to work out. Need you out there. And he said, yo, I'm up in Fort Lauderdale working out with Lamar Jackson's. And Cam Ward said, well, you ain't going to be catching passes from Lamar Jackson during the season. And if you don't come down here and work out with me now, you ain't going to be catching passes from me either. That's a leader. That's the guy we need in Cam Ward. Yeah. And one more thing about Cam Ward, because I know we're running short on time, and I just want to stack it up here with a double shot. People ask me all the time, Grease, and people hit me up on social media at @JimGrease_, and they say, hey, who does Cam Ward remind you most of at quarterback U? Who's the guy you look at and you say, who is Cam Ward most similar to? And I'm going to throw him up right there. You see that guy right there? That's Jim Kelly.
Yes.
Same size as Cam Ward, 6'3",
yes.
225, same weight, same size, same poise, same toughness, same leadership. I see Jim Kelly at the U. Go back and watch his highlights. The Penn State win on the road. Cool, calm, unflappable, tough as nails. That's my comparison for all of you who are wondering.
I love that. Well, what's your prediction for Saturday, tomorrow, 3:30 p.m., Miami Hurricanes, Ball State Cardinals? What do you think is the final score? And by the way, just for the bettors out there, Like there are certain things I might look at in this game. I'm looking at the odds with our partners FanDuel right now. The over under is 55.5. I'd probably go over because I think Miami is going to score in or near the 50s, and Ball State may sneak in a field goal or two. So I probably would go over 55.5. In terms of the 36.5 point spread, I don't usually touch spreads that big, right? Because does Miami have a couple of off plays? Hopefully not. If Miami does rotate in a lot of backups, do they take their foot off the gas? 36.5 points is a big spread, but that's what it is. Miami are favored by 36.5. Greece, what do you think the final score is going to look like?
Caden Simonza is not a bad quarterback, by the way, for Ball State. He had 4 touchdowns in the game last week. They scored 28 points in the first quarter of the only game they played, but they are not playing Missouri State
the fourth quarter.
this week. Was it I'm sorry, the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
my bad, Alex. The fourth quarter. So this game here is a statement game for them. Obviously, they want to come out and play well against a team like Miami, and that's a representation of their program and where they are moving forward against the powerhouse. For Miami, it's a home game. It's a must-win game. It's an easy win game. It's all those things, right? You have to win by a lot. To me, it's about the run game first, Alex. So that 36.5, I would leave it alone. Yeah. Definitely, that's a lot right there. But I like the over 55.5. I just think there's, with a passing team like them, they can hit a big play late when the reserves are in. And that's why I like the over, but not the spread, because if, garbage time later, a couple touchdowns maybe. But I love the over in this game, mostly because Miami's going to smoke them. I should parlay that with the 36.5 because I think it's easily a 40-point win. But responsible gambling, Alex, responsible gambling. Yeah. Go with the sure thing. It's the over. And I really, like you said, the running game has to be the priority this week. And against a passing team, I cannot wait to see those guys up front get after that quarterback, because I love this defensive line. And I have to give a shout out to the Dolphins legend. Jason Taylor is doing a phenomenal job.
He sure is. He absolutely is. Yeah, I'm going to go 52-7 Miami. So I know, like, technically my score prediction has them covering 36.5. I don't usually bet on numbers that big. I'm just going to leave that part of it alone. I'm going to go 52-7 Miami. I think Cam Ward is going to have himself a day again. That's just what he does. Hopefully Reese Poffenbarger gets some time in there. And for those who have been asking, Emory Williams is redshirting. Like, he's definitely redshirting. I don't know if we'll see him in games like this. I think he's going to be more of a break glass in case of emergency, so he can preserve his red shirt. But hopefully Poff goes out there, throws some touchdown passes as well. Hopefully the running game lights it up. I want to see more Chris Johnson touchdowns. I'd love to see another Jordan Lyle touchdown, along with touchdowns from Damian Martinez and Mark Fletcher. So I think Miami they're going to be able to showcase and sharpen this week. Try to keep the mistakes to a minimum. So that's what I'm going with. And Grease, thank you so much for taking the time. Just let people know what they can expect and when they can expect you on the postcast.
All right, and one more thing I want to add: no injuries in the game, obviously, especially key injuries, and then get that depth and build that depth and get those guys experience and get them out there against a better opponent than FAMU. We'll be on live right after the game, Alex, Locked On Sports Miami YouTube, and then forever in perpetuity. How great is that, right? And you get all of Alex's shows on there too, wherever you get your podcast. That means Spotify. That means our number one source, Apple Podcasts, you name it, wherever you get it. I will be there after the game live on YouTube, and then immediately following the live show, it goes up for the podcast channel, and we will be there after every single game this year. Dolphins too, if you're a Dolphins fan as well.
Yeah, and obviously that was a tough one last night, but of course I know our guy Kyle Krabs is covering it throughout the week. We'll talk to everyone next time on another episode of Locked On Canes. We're part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.